Every year, thousands of older hikers arrive at high-altitude national parks, expecting the adventure of a lifetime. And for some of them, that adventure turns into a medical emergency before they even reach the trailhead. Here's a question many visitors over 50 ask. Does altitude sickness really hit older hikers harder? The answer is nuanced, but critically important. While age alone does not automatically increase your risk of acute mountain sickness, the underlying health conditions that become more common as we age absolutely do. If you have any degree of heart disease, reduced lung capacity, or high blood pressure, your body has a significantly harder time compensating for the reduced oxygen available at elevation. Understanding this distinction could genuinely save your life. Let us start with the science, because once you understand what is happening inside your body, the preparation strategies make perfect sense. Think of it this way. At sea level, every breath you take delivers a rich dose of oxygen to your bloodstream. The air is dense, the oxygen molecules are packed tightly together, and your lungs have an easy job. Now imagine someone slowly removing oxygen molecules from every breath you take, like pulling marbles out of a jar one by one. That is essentially what happens as you gain elevation. At 10,000 feet, which is roughly the elevation of many popular trails in Rocky Mountain National Park, there is about 30% less oxygen in every breath compared to sea level. At 14,000 feet, the summit of Long's Peak, you are working with roughly 40% less oxygen. For a healthy 25-year-old, the body compensates relatively quickly. The heart beats faster, breathing deepens, and within a day or two, the body begins producing more red blood cells to carry the limited oxygen more efficiently. But for an older hiker, especially one with even mild cardiovascular or pulmonary issues, this compensation process is slower and less efficient. The heart may already be working harder than it should at rest. The lungs may have reduced elasticity from decades of use or from conditions like mild COPD that have not even been formally diagnosed. Add the demands of altitude on top of that, and you have a recipe for trouble. Let us talk about specific parks where this matters most. Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado is perhaps the most significant example. The park entrance sits at roughly 7,600 feet, and Trail Ridge Road, the highest continuous paved road in North America, climbs above 12,000 feet. Many visitors drive from Denver, which is already at 5,200 feet, and within a couple of hours, they are standing at 12,000 feet, taking selfies at the Alpine Visitor Center. Their bodies have had almost no time to adjust. Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming presents a different but equally serious challenge. The valley floor sits at about 6,300 feet, but the iconic peaks rise dramatically to nearly 14,000 feet. The Teton Crest Trail and routes up the Grand Teton itself involve rapid elevation gains that can overwhelm even fit hikers. Other parks with significant altitude concerns include Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado, where the dune field sits at over 8,000 feet, Mesa Verde in Colorado at elevations exceeding 8,000 feet, and even parts of Yosemite and Sequoia, where trails climb well above 10,000 feet. So, what exactly should you watch for? Altitude sickness typically presents in 3 stages, and recognizing the early symptoms is everything. The mildest form, acute mountain sickness, often feels like a bad hangover. You might develop a headache, feel nauseated, lose your appetite, or experience unusual fatigue and dizziness. Many people dismiss these symptoms, attributing them to dehydration or travel exhaustion. That is a dangerous mistake. If acute mountain sickness progresses, it can develop into high-altitude pulmonary edema, where fluid accumulates in the lungs, or high-altitude cerebral edema, where fluid builds up around the brain. Both of these conditions can be fatal if not treated promptly. Warning signs of pulmonary edema include a persistent cough, sometimes producing pink or frothy sputum, extreme breathlessness even at rest, and a gurgling sound when breathing. Cerebral edema symptoms include confusion, loss of coordination, severe headache that does not respond to medication, and altered behavior. If you or a hiking companion shows any of these advanced symptoms, the single most important action is to descend immediately. Every minute matters. Let me share some real incidents that illustrate why this is so serious. In 2018, a 67-year-old man from Florida collapsed on the Flat Top Mountain Trail in Rocky Mountain National Park at approximately 12,000 feet. He had arrived in Colorado just the day before and had no acclimatization time. Park rangers performed an emergency evacuation by helicopter, and he was diagnosed with severe high-altitude pulmonary edema, complicated by an underlying heart condition he had been managing with medication. He survived, but rangers later said that another hour at that elevation could have been fatal. In Grand Teton National Park, rescue teams regularly respond to altitude-related emergencies on the popular Paintbrush Canyon and Cascade Canyon trails. A 71-year-old woman from Texas experienced acute confusion and inability to walk in a straight line above 10,000 feet in 2020. Her hiking group initially thought she was simply exhausted, but a passing ranger recognized the symptoms of cerebral edema and initiated an immediate evacuation. She was airlifted to a hospital in Jackson and spent 3 days recovering. These are not rare occurrences. Park Service data shows that altitude-related incidents involving visitors over 60 have increased as national park visitation has surged in recent years. Now, if you are finding this information valuable, I want to ask you to take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to National Park Secrets. We create these videos to help you explore America's most incredible landscapes safely and confidently. Subscribing means you will never miss a new guide, and it helps us reach more hikers who need this information. Now, let us get into the practical preparation strategies. Rangers at high-altitude parks consistently offer the same core advice when it comes to acclimatization, and it comes down to one word: patience. The general recommendation is to spend at least 1 to 2 full days at a moderate elevation, say 6,000 to 8,000 feet, before venturing above 10,000 feet. If you are visiting Rocky Mountain National Park, consider spending your first 2 nights in Estes Park at about 7,500 feet, rather than immediately driving Trail Ridge Road to 12,000 feet. Let your body begin adjusting. For Grand Teton visitors, spending a couple of days in the Jackson Hole Valley at 6,300 feet before attempting any high elevation hikes gives your physiology a meaningful head start. The golden rule rangers teach is called the climb high, sleep low principle. During the day, you can hike to higher elevations, but you should return to a lower elevation to sleep. This allows your body to experience altitude stress during the day while recovering at a more oxygen-rich elevation at night. For older hikers, rangers recommend an even more conservative approach. Limit your elevation gain to no more than 1,000 feet per day once you are above 8,000 feet, and build in a rest day for every 3,000 feet of total gain. Pacing is another critical factor. The instinct for many hikers is to push through discomfort and reach the destination. Experienced high-altitude rangers will tell you the opposite. Go slower than you think you need to. A good test is the talk test. If you cannot carry on a conversation while hiking without gasping for breath, you are moving too fast. Slow down until you can speak in complete sentences. This is not a sign of weakness. It is smart physiology. Hydration deserves its own discussion because it is both simpler and more complex than most people realize. At high altitude, you lose moisture faster through increased respiration and lower humidity. The general recommendation is to drink at least 3 to 4 liters of water per day at elevations above 8,000 feet, more if you are actively hiking. But here's the nuance. Overhydration can also be dangerous, leading to a condition called hyponatremia, where sodium levels drop dangerously low. The key is to drink steadily throughout the day, rather than consuming large amounts all at once, and to include electrolytes in your hydration plan. Avoid alcohol for at least the first 48 hours at altitude, as it exacerbates dehydration and can mask early symptoms of altitude sickness. Medication is a topic that requires careful consideration and professional guidance. Acetazolamide, commonly known by the brand name Diamox, is a prescription medication that helps the body acclimatize more quickly by stimulating deeper breathing. Many doctors prescribe it for patients planning high-altitude travel, typically starting at 1 to 2 days before ascending. However, it interacts with several common medications that older adults may be taking, including certain blood pressure medications, diabetes drugs, and blood thinners. This is precisely why consulting your doctor before any high-altitude trip is not optional. It is essential. Bring a complete list of your medications to that appointment, and specifically ask about altitude interactions. Some blood pressure medications, for instance, can cause excessive drops in blood pressure at altitude, leading to fainting or falls on exposed trails. A few more practical tips that experienced older hikers swear by. First, invest in trekking poles if you do not already use them. At altitude, your balance and coordination can be subtly impaired, and poles provide crucial stability on uneven terrain. Second, layer your clothing carefully. High-altitude weather changes rapidly, and temperature swings of 40 degrees in a single day are common. Hypothermia is a real risk even in summer. Third, carry a pulse oximeter, a small device that clips onto your finger and measures your blood oxygen saturation. Normal readings at sea level are 95 to 100%. At 10,000 feet, readings of 90 to 95% are common and generally acceptable. If your reading drops below 85%, especially if accompanied by symptoms, it is time to descend. These devices cost less than $30 and weigh almost nothing. Finally, tell someone your plans. Leave a detailed itinerary with a friend or family member, including which trails you plan to hike and when you expect to return. Register at ranger stations when possible. Carry a personal locator beacon or satellite communicator if you are going into areas without cell service, which includes most backcountry areas in these parks. High-altitude national parks contain some of the most breathtaking landscapes on Earth. Standing above treeline in Rocky Mountain National Park, watching the sun rise over the Teton Range, or hiking through the alpine meadows of these incredible places are experiences that enrich our lives immeasurably. Age should not keep you from these adventures, but respect for the altitude and honest preparation absolutely must be part of your plan. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. If you found this guide helpful, please like this video and subscribe to National Park Secrets so you never miss the tips and insights that make your park visits safer and more memorable. Share this with a friend or family member who is planning a high-altitude trip. Leave a comment below telling us which high-elevation park is calling your name. Until next time, stay safe on the trail. And remember, the mountain will always be there tomorrow. There's never any shame in turning around today.